have bad days. We leave the field sometimes like feeling bummed out, but the difference is that's one day versus every single day. And so I can take one day, and being a Razorback is just so awesome. And I've definitely taken a turn in my life this year. I'm proud of myself for making it this far and making it through all that. And I'm so grateful that they took a chance on me and that I get to play for them every day.
Bri Ellis is the Bo Mattingly of the Razorback softball team.
Bri Ellis.
That might be out.
Strokes one down left, and it's on the curve and gone.
And there's some of that fire that Bri Ellis brings to the table.
The Auburn transfer leads the team in home runs and is among the top of the SEC slammers.
That's deep. That's way out of here and gone. An early statement from the Hogs comes from Bri Ellis in 3 runs.
As a young softball player growing up in Texas, she dreamed of playing for Texas A&M. But broken promises and changes to NCAA recruiting rules left her without a scholarship with the Aggies.
My world was like turned upside down. It really was like a blessing in disguise.
Determined to still play SEC softball, Ellis landed a spot at Auburn, hitting 20 home runs her first season, earning the honor of SEC Freshman of the Year.
This one is hit deep to left, and when it comes down, it'll be a grand slam. A light tower shot, Bri Ellis.
Although she delivered on the field in 2 seasons with the Tigers, she never felt truly at home, and the team, as a whole, struggled.
If I wasn't hitting, we weren't scoring runs. I want to be on a team that can win those kinds of games.
In a search for a team that felt like home, she landed at Arkansas, where the dynamic felt different than anything she had had before.
I flat out just want to get better. I will put everything on the line for you if you just help guide me. I deserve coaches who respect me and teammates who respect me, and we all have one common goal.
SEC Player of the Week starts the weekend off with a 3-run home run, returning back to the Plains. Bri Ellis.
In her first season with the Hogs, she has continued her dominance at the plate, but instead of feeling like a lone performer, has a team and a coach at her back that share her drive for the game.
We're at the top. We're taking down the number 3 team, the number 11 team.
Yeah.
We're up there, and we're big and bad and scary.
Bri, you grew up in Houston.
I did.
Did you always play softball, or did you dabble with anything else?
I kind of played basketball, kind of played volleyball, nothing super serious. I did it in middle school for fun. I played basketball my freshman year of high school for fun, and then I got hit in the lip, in the mouth super bad. My lip was huge. I was like,
Yeah, we're done with that.
I'm not doing this anymore. I wasn't a fan of running up and down the court either.
I get that.
I'm not a big cardio person,
Don't
so
sign
I
me up for the
wasn't a
cardio.
fan. Yeah. No.
That's funny. So you talk about your whole family is kind of involved in athletics. I grew up and my parents were like, you're doing something. You're playing some sort of sport. Was that kind of the situation with yours as well?
They wanted me to try at least everything once and see what I liked. And so I did the dancing, gymnastics, all the other stuff. Swimming. I did swim.
Okay.
And I don't know. I just didn't like it. It's not that I wasn't good at them, because I was, but I liked softball the best. And when I was younger, I was a pitcher. I think I played everything. My main positions were pitcher, catcher, shortstop, and then it ended up being first base. And so I quit pitching around 12 or 13. And some days I'm like, man, I wish I would have been a pitcher, because I was 12 years old throwing, I think my max speed was 63 or something, which was huge for me at the time, but I couldn't throw a single strike to save my life. So I ended up quitting pitching. And before I quit pitching, I quit catching to focus on pitching. So also I could have been a catcher, and I was really good at catching too,
Yeah.
but it's like, just the way the events fell, I ended up being a first baseman.
Well, I want to talk about your college career, obviously. We'll talk about your recruitment first. Growing up in Houston, did you ever think you wanted to stay in Texas, or were you just kind of branching out? What was your recruitment like?
So we were always huge Texas A&M fans because that's where my mom went. We would always go to softball games, football games. We were always at whatever they were playing. And so it was always my dream to play for Texas A&M. And when I think I started getting offers in 8th grade, which is totally
wow.
illegal now.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore, which is a good thing.
Okay.
But I was getting offers in 8th grade, going on visits and stuff. I committed to Texas A&M my freshman year of high school, and I was like 13. Yeah, I was 13 because it was in November, and I remember having the conversation with like who was my idol at the time, and like sitting across the room and in her own room, like talking about these huge sums of money like for a scholarship and stuff. And I remember just like being like, whoa, this is awesome. This is crazy. Like, I can't believe this is happening. So I ended up, because it was my dream school and because I loved it there so much, I think that kind of like messed with me a little bit, messed with my process, because it's like, supply and demand. Like, how bad do you really want to come here? Like, I can give you a low scholarship. Maybe you love it enough to come. And at the time I did,
Right.
and I accepted a pretty low scholarship. And I remember saying to her, like, I feel like I'm worth more than this. I know that I'm worth more than this. And we kind of worked out a verbal agreement, like, if you do get better at this, and this, I'll raise it to like 85 or whatever the sum was. And I was like, okay, deal. And that's the last time I will ever like take a verbal business agreement seriously, because of course I got played in the end. So whenever there was this big recruiting rule change and you couldn't talk to your coaches until September 1st of your junior year. And so the coach called me and we talked, and we were like going over all the good stuff I've done. And so I was like, okay, so what's my scholarship looking at? Because I haven't talked to her in 2 years. And so I didn't know where she stood with that. She was like, yeah, well, we're still going to stay at what we were before. And so I was like, this sucks. So my dad ended up taking the phone from me because there's nothing I can do at that point. And my dad said that the conversation that he had with that coach was like one of the worst business conversations ever. He to this day won't share with me what was said about me between them. So it really was like a blessing in disguise of not going there, because I would not have done well in that environment. And she was the kind of coach that like wanted to mold players and like mold their personalities and mold what they looked like into just like kind of carbon copies. She's not there anymore, so it's not the same one now.
Yeah.
So now they're thriving, they're doing
Okay.
amazing. But so I remember like my world was like turned upside down, because I knew what I was gonna do from the youngest age. Like I was like, I'm going to A&M, I'm studying this, and this is how it's gonna work out. And it was like almost kind of an easy road going up to then, until that very moment. And I was like, well, I don't even know if I want to play softball anymore. Like, if I don't play for A&M, do I even want, like, what if I'll just go there as a student, And so obviously my parents did not let that happen. They were
Yeah.
like, you are way too talented to just fall through the cracks. Like a lot, it's sad because a lot of early recruits, that happens too. And they just like, it's the feeling of defeat is like no other. It was so tough. But what made it easier is, of course, here comes Jazz Jackson into the picture. She's swooping in, taking over. Like, my name is back on the page for like recruiting, because I was off the market, I guess, forever. And coaches were always at our games and stuff, watching other players, and they were, always watching me in turn, but they could never do anything because I was committed. So I started getting calls and stuff from coaches, and I remember before I committed to A&M, I went on a visit to Alabama, and I loved Alabama, and I thought it was, I mean, it's Alabama. Like,
Right.
what's not to love about that university and that program? And growing up, it's always Bama, Bama, Bama. So I was like, I love that place, and I just felt like I was supposed to go to A&M because that was always the plan. So I chose there instead. So after the commitment fell through, I was kind of like, okay, like looking at my options, and I was like, yeah, like Alabama, like, yeah, that's great. Like, I'll go to Alabama. Are you kidding? Like, let's see if I can get back to like talking with the coaches and stuff and how all that works out. So my friends took me out to dinner because I was obviously distraught.
Yeah.
And I get a phone call from a phone number from, I think it was like Birmingham, Alabama. And I made a joke and I was like, oh, look, this is probably the Alabama coach right now, like super snooty and stuff. And so I answer the phone. It's, hi, this is Coach Mickey Dean with Auburn softball. Can I have a moment? And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is the coolest thing ever. Like, it's not Alabama, but it's right next door. It's
Yep.
Auburn, and it's up there. And so I went and I had the conversation outside the restaurant. And then within a week, I was up there for an unofficial visit, and I just loved everything about it. The campus was great. The community was so great. I really felt like I belonged there, and it was like the kind of love at first sight kind of cliche. That's like really how it felt. And another huge aspect of it for me was that I knew that I could go in and play from day one. And there wasn't like a Danielle Gibson playing first base. So like, if you think about it, if I came to Arkansas from day one, I would have been sitting the bench.
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
I'm not beating out Gib. So I knew I was going to go in from the start and play. So I committed there like almost immediately. And I was Auburn, everything there on out. And so I get there my freshman year. It was like the fall fall off season in college sports is no joke. And it was very rewarding, but very like taxing on all aspects of me. But I do feel that I came out on the other end a stronger person, player, all of the above. My freshman year comes, and we do a lot of like making our goals for the season, personal, team, academic, stuff like that. And I remember talking to my dad, and I was like, yeah, I think it'd be really cool to like maybe see if I could have like 5 home runs, get like, a good 250 batting average maybe, and like make the all SEC freshman team. That was like, those are my goals. And so I didn't want to make my expectations too high for myself, because I was going into the SEC with no experience, not having faced any kind of college pitching. I didn't really know how good I was either. I mean, I had some big moments in travel ball, but I was always kind of like under the rug. Like, no one really thought anything of me, which was fine with me. Like, it didn't really matter. And so then I started doing really well. And I kind of knew that I was legit when we were playing Texas, and Haley Dulcini was pitching, and I got down to like a 0-2, 1-2 count. And her pitching was like none other that I had ever seen before. And 2 runners on, I ended up hitting a 3-run bomb like over the bleachers.
Oh, wow.
And that was like such a surreal moment for me. And I was like, maybe I can do this. Like, maybe
Maybe I am really good.
maybe this isn't as impossible as it, seems when you're looking at it at a distance. And so I just kept going, kept getting better. I learned a lot. And it was really tough. The mental battles were so hard. I think I went like 0 for 25 at some point, which is so tough. as a freshman for sure, and then just as someone who was the biggest hitter on my team at the time, and like if I wasn't hitting, we weren't scoring runs. So it was just very, very, very tough for me, but it was a really important lesson to learn in that day. And so I ended up hitting, I think my batting average was like 302. I hit 20 home runs, like 47 something RBIs. So I had a really great season. And I just remember I had nothing to lose. I was a freshman. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody really feared me. Nobody saw me as a threat. And most importantly, I didn't know what I was doing in the box. I didn't know who these pitchers were. Like, all these big names. Like, I don't know. This is my first time doing this. And so none of the pressure really got to me because I think I really just didn't have anything to lose. I didn't have that big weight on my shoulders of like having the big name of Bri Ellis, big power hitter. So sophomore season comes. I ended up getting hurt over the fall, which it wasn't like I didn't have to have surgery or anything. It was like a pulled muscle. But it affected like I couldn't lift as much. I couldn't obviously do as much conditioning. I couldn't practice as much. So I was not as confident going into season, but I was also like, that's fine. I just hit 20 home runs. Like I'm running on confidence right now.
Yeah. Because you also got freshman of the year.
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
you?
that's right. Yeah.
So that had to boost your confidence as well.
Yeah, that was really awesome when that happened. And I remember being more surprised that I got all SEC second team, because I was like, that means I was the second best first baseman in the SEC. Like, that's not just dealing with freshmen, that's everyone. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I got that big award. I got like offensive player of the year for my team and stuff. So just had a lot of awards that year. And so I go into sophomore year, and it's a slow start, as in I wasn't hitting home runs off the bat every time I went up there. I think it took me like 3 weeks until I hit my first home run. And it was like after that, it just took off. And I hit like, I think 1 week I hit like 4 home runs. I don't think I got out at all for a whole week. And it was the reason it was that week was so big to me was because the week prior I just like felt like my world was ending. I couldn't hit the ball to save my life. It felt like I couldn't even walk. I couldn't get on at all. I was striking out. So it was so mentally challenging that week before. And then I remember meeting with my therapist, and I was like, I just feel hopeless. And so we kind of started from the basics, went back up, which is something that I have found really helps when I'm, feeling hopeless, is just like going back to the basics and not trying to do too much. And so I have what felt like the worst week of my career to the best week of my career. And I was SEC Player of the Week and National Player of the Week. So that was one of the like cooler moments in my career, was doing that. And then, the rest of the season, it's sophomore year. They have film on me. They know who I am. They know my weaknesses. I had a huge weakness. I couldn't hit an inside pitch to save my life. So I tried to just like foul it off until I would get an outside. Then I would, smash it.
Okay.
But it was so obvious what my weakness was, and it was so frustrating. But I kind of, made do with what I had. And so we ended up finishing third in the SEC because Maddie Pinta had just a phenomenal year. She was SEC Pitcher of the Year. We took the series from a bunch of huge teams. We took the Alabama series, which was at Alabama.
Oh, wow.
Which it was a rival series, so it was huge. But it wasn't the best season I've had, but I definitely learned a lot on the mental side, and just kind of pushing through and taking what I can get, and definitely having to tunnel out a lot of negativity from myself a lot. Coaches, other players, like people who were supposed to be my teammates, other parents. Like, it was just really, really bad and really tough. But it was okay in the fact that, like, I do a really good job of not really caring what other people think to an extent. Like, I can let a lot of things go and just, because, I mean, I don't even know y'all, and y'all are just saying this stuff about me. So I actually remember our first SEC series, we played in Georgia, and I had a really, really good series. And I don't remember my stats exactly, but I did really well. And we won the first game, lost the second by a lot, and then the last one was just a heartbreaking, like, 10-inning overtime, extra inning loss. And I was at a restaurant eating dinner with my parents, and I was just crying because I was like, I mean, I did absolutely everything I could. And that's kind of the moment where I was like, I want to be on a team that can, like, win those kinds of games and come out on top. And if I give them everything I have, they'll give me everything they have. And that's just, I wasn't getting that. And when you have all the factors going in at one time, and a coach, he was really hard on me, like, specifically, because I could take it. There's definitely, like, a line, and it was crossed at, like, the first tournament of that season. So, and it was, like, humiliating. And so that was just a bad way to start the season. And then basically just didn't give me a break at all, really, until, I guess, regionals, when I kind of just was like, I'm just doing my own thing. Like, I'm just me right now. And it was a really weird moment playing on a team, but you feel like you're just, like, isolated by yourself. Super weird. But that Georgia series, that's when I was like, I deserve better. I deserve coaches who respect me, and teammates who respect me, and teammates who, we all have one common goal, and we're not just there to, like, hang out. So that was a big factor for me, for sure. And then, so just carrying on with the rest of the season, I didn't, like I said, I didn't do amazing, but I had my moments here and there. I had some big hits.
Absolutely.
Definitely was struggling at some points. Had some very low lows that season, and I just wasn't getting any help. Like, I was going out and asking for help, and I wasn't getting anything back in return. And when good things would happen to me, nobody would acknowledge it, because they kind of viewed it as, like, they didn't want it to, like, go to my head or anything. And they didn't like when I got recognition, and they didn't like when I stood out, because I don't know if they thought I wasn't going to be a team player or what, but, like, I mean, I can't control that. Like, that's, if it were up to me, there would be no kind of, like, awards, best player here, best player that. Like, just play and play for a championship. Like, that's what we did in travel ball. We didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. And now that there's all these eyes on you, and there's awards and recognition like that, like, I can't control that.
No.
And so,
and they should be supporting you.
Right.
And they should be happy for you
Right.
if you win that, because it's good for the team and it's good for you.
Right.
Something before we kind of move on, you touched on it a little bit with some of the reasons why you wanted to transfer. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that that's not an easy decision to make. There's a lot of factors that actually play into leaving a school. Were there any other reasons that you decided that, maybe it'd be best for me to try something new, get a fresh start somewhere?
Yeah, I remember just feeling constantly defeated. Like, I would always leave the field after practice or a game, like, just a mess. I was an emotional wreck. Everything, I mean, there was so much negativity from, like, our own fans, which that's tough. I mean, these are the people that you're playing for and you want to entertain, and they're paying to come see you, and they're far from satisfied. Like, that's really tough. And just, it was really, I think at the end of the day, really just the negativity of all of it. And you know, you can put up with that if you're winning, but it got to the point where we weren't going anywhere, and I was a wreck and I was a mess and I was getting worse. I felt it. It felt like I really didn't have much coaching for me, and I was terrified to make a mistake always. And when I did, we would have severe punishment, and it was always surrounded by what I was doing. And so I was always on edge. I felt like I had to be perfect at all times, and it felt like when I wasn't contributing, we weren't getting anywhere. And it was so frustrating, especially having Maddie Penta just pitching her butt off every game and just not being able to offensively produce. It's just like, it was so taxing.
I know you talked about kind of the fans being hard on you too. I remember when you decided to transfer and it became public, they kind of came after you a little bit. They called you soft. And I know you also mentioned that, you know, you don't really care what other people think, but I feel like sometimes it still hurts, I'm sure, to see that, especially from a fan base that you were playing for.
Yeah. It was really weird how it all happened. At first, people started making speculations that I was leaving for NIL purposes, and whenever they brought NIL into it, they started attacking Auburn's NIL office. And then the people who were, I think they called themselves like the pro big three of like football, basketball, baseball, they were like, we don't care. Like, this is literally a women's sport. And then they started going after my batting average, saying, why are we, you know, like going after our NIL office for a 275 hitter and all this stuff.
So then you get a fresh start at Arkansas. Why did you choose to become a Razorback?
So many reasons. One, I just absolutely adore, love, respect Coach Eifel. That a woman is just so special, and playing at Auburn on the other side of it and seeing it from someone who was getting constantly, you know, beat down, constantly just taking it day after day, and, you know, seeing the other side and their super successful team, and, you know, how much talent they had and how much they just loved their coach, and just hugs and celebrations. And it was just like, that's where I want to be. That's who I want to play for. Obviously, they're a big hitting school, so I liked that. One of my biggest things, other than the obvious of like, I would like to be respected, was I want to get better. Like, I felt like I really did a deep decline my sophomore year. And I remember my mom always saying, like, you had 14 home runs. Like, that's not bad. Like, what are you, like, you're so hard on yourself. And it's like, yeah, but I know what I'm capable of. And I have high expectations for myself. And I have a standard that I've set for myself. And I wasn't meeting any of that sophomore year. And so I made it clear to every coach I spoke to, and kind of what I was looking for. And I was like, I flat out just want to get better. Like, I can compete. I will put everything on the line for you if you just help guide me where I need to go. Like, I will give you absolutely everything I have and more. And also, I was looking for, I remember saying like something about a complete pitching staff, because it was really hard going from having one just incredible pitcher and just anytime anyone else came in, just scrambling. So that was, I had like those big three things going into it, but I just felt really comfortable and really confident in the Arkansas coaching staff, because I had seen it. I'd seen it in action, and I had seen them beat every single person that's come their way. And just the strength of this program all around was so important to me. And then, you know, everything else. I mean, Arkansas is so beautiful. Just every day when I'm driving around here, I'm like, this place is awesome. You know, the mountains, like, that's crazy. And everything. It's so beautiful, so nice. So, I mean, it was really just, I mean, it all comes down to Coach Deifel. She's just absolutely amazing, and I couldn't say enough about her.
Do you ever imagine you'd be suiting up in a Razorback uniform?
No, I had no idea. I remember when I was still like watching all the A&M games, and we would play Arkansas. I would be like, oh, well, this is like, we're gonna win this one. Here we go, like, let's go. And then now Arkansas, we're at the top, and we're taking down the number 3 team, the number 11 team. Like, we're up there, and we're big and bad and scary. So that's super awesome.
I was about to say a big credit to that is also because you're here and you've got that power hitter marker on you now. Everyone knows that you can hit it out of the park any given chance that you're at the plate. I love the fact that the fans have embraced you so much as well. The free falling to Bri Bombin thing. What did you think about that?
I thought that was awesome.
Change the words.
So funny. Because I like to think of myself as like super witty and like can come up with stuff like that. I would have never thought of that.
It was so good.
I love that so much.
And you talked about how when you first came in, you had nothing to lose, and now everyone expects a certain thing from you when you were in the game. Does that change things for you and how you approach the games at all?
It definitely did at first, for reasons as in like I have a very big, strong personality, and I am aware of that. Yeah. And I know going into this program in this university, I couldn't just come guns blazing, like just full force all at once. Like, I have to take a step back, kind of like tame it down until like these people get comfortable with me, because they've been together. These are girls that have been through it together already, and they're tight. And so I'm this new name coming in with this huge, strong personality, all this baggage following me from the outside, it felt like. So I was definitely aware of like, I need to be careful, but myself still, in a sense. And so I mean, the girls are great. They welcomed me, and obviously there's always nerves of going in, meeting people for the first time, making new friends. But they respected me a lot, and I did, obviously you have to earn people's respect, which is how it should be. And I knew that coming into it, and I knew that I was going to have to like show up for these girls to respect me, because if your teammates aren't respecting you, then you're not going to go anywhere. And they just really just love and accept me for who I am, which is awesome. And I don't have to, put on a facade or pretend to be someone I'm not. And it's just great knowing how much they love me. And they're so vocal about that too, which is huge. They're so like, we love you so much. And I don't go a day without thinking otherwise. They will just let me know every time.
Because, I mean, you mentioned you're a big personality. We see that fire out on the field now, too. Yeah. So you've grown into the player that you can be. Is that what you feel right now?
Yeah. I think what helps me be such, not necessarily such a successful player, but like be such a vital source to any team I play for is the energy that I bring and the passion. And I don't care who we're playing, we're gonna go get them. And I don't care who's on the mound, I'm their biggest fan. And I'm gonna help you get through this because I've been through it before, and there's nothing that I feel we can't do. And so I think that's really huge. And I remember Coach Deifel always taught, like when she would do interviews about bringing me on the team, she would say like, she has that edge that we've been needing. And so it's like, at first I was like, well, what does she mean by that edge? Then I was like, yeah, like, we need some
different energy to the team.
Yeah. And so I think that's what I bring, and I think people really like that. And I also think Coach Gasso does a really good job of bringing some sort of edge to us also. Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, it seems like you're pretty close with some of the other transfers as well.
Yeah.
Like Nia and Reese. I mean, is that, I don't know if that's like a bond that you guys kind of went through similar situations switching schools, or is it more of an age thing? You guys are just close that way? Or?
It was more of like, we were kind of the outsiders at the beginning, obviously. I mean, that's just how it's going to work. And so we kind of like stuck together, rode together to the, like in the same car to the first few functions and like meetings and stuff. And we just kind of stuck together until we felt that we could really like move into everyone else. And after making that bond from the beginning, you're just going to be friends for a really long time. So that definitely helped in us and how close we are.
It's a great team this year. And the program has come such a long way over the past several years with Coach Deifel. But how do you feel about this team and what your ceiling is?
I am incredibly proud of us, because you can ask anyone. We did not start out super hot at the beginning. All of this media and attention was on us for being, on paper, like the best offense in the country.
Absolutely.
1 through 9, like we can hit. And that just wasn't happening for us. And Coach Gasso coming in, our new hitting coach, he had a lot of pressure on his shoulders to get us where we need to go. And it just took time for us to kind of settle in, I think. I remember having not nerves, but like pressure on myself. Like, I'm in the heart of this lineup, and like we're losing games we should be blowing out of the water. And so I had another one of those weeks where it was like just so frustrating, like a little breaking point. And I remember talking to Coach Gasso, and I was like, I just feel like I'm letting the team down. I feel like that's what I'm doing. And even though at the time there weren't really, it wasn't like I wasn't the only one who wasn't contributing. It was like 1 through 9, we were struggling, and it was evident and it was obvious, and we just lacked confidence, belief, really. So I had like a full-fledged breakdown like in the middle of warm-ups, and just got all of that out of my system. I had, several meetings with the coaches where they were like just reminding me who I am, and things aren't as bad as you think they are. And because we might be losing these games, it's not all on you. And so after that week, I had another kind of like turnaround where it was like I won SEC Player of the Week, and then again the next week. And it was like that's when things just kind of started taking off. So it was like a full-fledged belief. We had the belief of everyone, and I believe in everyone else. It's each individual was lacking the belief in ourselves. So we all went to work kind of mentally, which if we're always in here working physically. I mean, it's hard to get us out of here, but to get us to just kind of sit back and just take a minute and really kind of get the mental side of us back to where it needs to be. That's when we started taking off and hitting again. And now our offense, we're still not completely there, but I mean, we're getting there. And the fact that we can be not at 100% and still be taking down top teams is huge, and it's promising, and it just shows a lot of character, and how we could have that rocky start and just kind of keep going, keep climbing up. And they always say, like, it doesn't matter how you start, it's how you finish, and it's how you are performing in May and June. So I think we have a really promising future, and we just need to keep climbing up and keep making a name for ourselves.
And not to mention, you started SEC play at Auburn.
Yeah.
I'm sure emotionally, you talk about like what you had been going through early on in this season. You had to be having a lot of feelings going back there as well.
Yeah, I was definitely nervous. I thought it was hilarious. The schedule came out, and that's our first away, like first series is away at Auburn.
Uh-huh.
I had known for a while, so I had kind of just like come to terms with it and accepted it. But I definitely had a lot of nerves going there, and just being there again was like a lot at once. But I think I got lucky when Friday, we were supposed to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday got rained out. So I kind of like I was very nervous pregame, and like doing anything, I was like
shaking a
just
little
super
bit.
shaky.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got that day off and to regroup the next
Yeah.
day. And I came out the next day. I felt great Saturday, and I knew exactly what they were going to throw me. I had faced Penta so many times. I had, most importantly, faced against, like, Coach Dean calling against me so many times. And I knew exactly what they were going to throw me. And I went to work that week before, and I went to the pitching machine and put it on, like, felt like 85. And I was
Wow.
like, just throw it out my eyes, and I'm going to find a way to hit it. And
Yeah.
so, you know, the preparation was definitely very important for me. And also just Coach Gasso was, you know, right there by my side the whole time. And so the minute I stepped in that box, it was like everything was, like, the nerves were gone. And my first at-bat back was a home run. That was
Yep.
that was awesome. Like, out of a storybook, it felt like I couldn't have written that better for myself. I couldn't believe it when I was running around the bases.
Could have set the tone for
It
the
was,
rest
yeah.
of the weekend, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and like help you get all those jitters
Oh, yeah.
out.
After that at-bat, there was nothing. I was like, oh, we're going.
We're
Like,
rolling
we're
now.
rolling right now. Yeah.
That's great. So as we kind of wrap things up, has being a Razorback been everything that you hoped it would be so far?
Absolutely. It just kind of blows me away every day that I'm here, that I'm playing for this team, that I get to, like, work with Danielle Gibson on a daily basis, get her professional insight. I get to work with Coach Gasso, Coach Michael, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Just all of these coaches, they're so amazing, and everything from putting the uniform on every day. I love the way the uniform looks.
It does look good.
It's just,
I like it.
that's just, like, from the smallest aspect to the largest, like, every single thing is just so awesome to me. And it's, you know, we have bad days. We leave the field sometimes, like, feeling bummed out, but the difference is that's one day versus every single day. And so I can take one day, and just being a Razorback is just so awesome. And I've definitely taken a turn in my life this year, and I'm proud of myself for making it this far and making it through all that. And I'm so grateful that they took a chance on me and that I get to play for them every day.